Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to World This Morning, ladies and gentlemen, on yet another morning. We love sharing our mornings with you, especially in Ramadan, because the spirits are lifted, of course, every other day, ladies and gentlemen. I feel like being kind and generous to people around me, and I really hope you guys are doing the same. Well, I have a lot to speak about, but I really do realize the topic that we today have chosen. There is a lot to speak about by the guests as well, so without further ado, I shall be introducing them to you. Just a little hint of it. Yesterday, we were speaking of the legend of the fall. Dr. Yusaf will definitely conclude on that since we had already started the discussion. Other than that, we will be discussing happiness in a larger term, in a broader perspective, where it's not on individual level but on a societal level, and how government through policy making can make a country happy. How amazing is that? So on my right hand side, ladies and gentlemen, we've been joined again by Dr. Yusaf, Raza, and Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the show again.
Wa alaikum assalam, pleasure to be here.
And next to Dr. Yusaf, we have someone who happens to be a clinical psychologist. She's been on the show quite some times now. This is none other than Anam Khan. Hello, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show again. We love having you.
Assalam. It's such a pleasure being here always.
Thank you so much. Next to Anam, we have someone who happens to be an advocate from the Supreme Court. He is a senior lawyer, none other than Mr. Habibullah Khan. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you.
So before I move on to both of you about public policy making and how to make our country happy, Dr. Yusuf, let's conclude on the legend of the fall.
Yeah, so where we left off yesterday, there was the problem of the evil that the angels had actually alluded to, and in response, one particular ability of Adam alayhi salam was demonstrated.
Okay.
The passage begins with that ability and then concludes with a reminder of the importance of revelation.
Right.
So first we speak a little about that, and then in relationship with revelation. That particular ability is, in simple words, naming things. That human beings were given the ability, and this is something that is exceptionally human, that distinguishes us from other animals. Of being able to name things, develop concepts, have conversations, communication, poetry, literature, you name it. And all of what human civilization is capable of based on the fundamental ability of language. And nowhere is this more beautifully elucidated than in the Autobiography of Helen Keller. Where she, as an 8-year-old, obviously at a very young age, deprived of vision and deprived of the ability to hear. So she describes herself as being an animal. Unable to be contained, literally throwing everything, breaking things, fits of temper. But then when her teacher, the miracle worker, Miss Sullivan, when she teaches her the ability to read and write and when language, and she talks about when she's sitting by that water spout and water is flowing and her teacher is writing the spelling water on her other arm. And how she says that there's this misty consciousness, this mysterious ability just entered into me, and as if I became alive at that point.
Curiosity,
and then the ability to, all that was attach symbols with objects that every human being attains by 2 years of age. And that's something that marks us separate, distinguishes us from all other creatures, including angels. And it is having that ability, connecting it with the freedom that we have, that allows for ourselves to educate ourselves, learn as individuals and as a community, to develop and not go towards that chaos, to become more of a community rather than a chaos. And then what the passage ends with is alluding towards revelation as scripture coming to guide human beings for this conceptual ability, scientific ability for language, in synchrony and reconciliation with scripture, and human society will become the community that it is destined to become, rather than the chaos which we
with the angel expected, you know. Well, that is a part of our community still, I do agree with that, but again, the uniqueness that is bestowed upon human beings, it is indeed not given to any other creature that Allah himself has created. So now, ladies and gentlemen, talking about happiness, when we speak of the happiness index globally, there are 5 countries which are marked, according to the latest statistics, the happiest countries of the world, and they happen to be Finland, Denmark, Norway, Iceland and Netherlands. Wow, that is beautiful. And Pakistan is placed on the 68th position. Okay, well, it's not bad, but it's not good as well. So let's start with you, Mr. Habibullah. When we're talking about public policy making, you are, basically devising all sorts of policies that will help, the general public. What are some of the things that must be kept in mind?
I think this is a time to work on our social philosophy.
Right.
Western bloc has its own social philosophy,
Yeah.
which is somehow termed as a capitalism.
Yes.
And the Eastern bloc, the Russia and China, they have own their social philosophy. We have accepted that Islam will be our social philosophy.
Okay.
But there is a need that we must derive some principles of every sphere of the life. Let's suppose for education,
Okay.
what are the basic principles derived by the Islam
Right.
to run our education system? For health system, what are the basic principles derived by the Islam to promote the health in the society? What are the relationship between the employer and employee?
Okay.
What are the basic guidance and basic principles given by the Islam? So we must work
Okay.
at every sphere of the life, every component of the society, every organization structure of the society.
Okay.
If there is a ministry of education, ministry of health,
Yeah.
our judicial system, we must work on the basic principles given by the Islam. So there must be not a discretionary power
Okay.
for the rulers,
Right.
for the politicians, for the secretaries, for the bureaucracy. So now in running system,
Okay.
they have a lot of discretionary powers. So by this discretionary power, no one knows that what will be going to their case and what will be the fate of their case in
Right.
our
So
judicial
you were saying
system.
that policy making, since we are living in the Islamic Republic of Pakistan, should be sort of, related to our religion, because that is how we feel like we can attain peace and happiness on a larger scale. But you say it is not happening.
It's not working like we must know the basic principles,
Yeah.
and we must run our society according to that basic principles.
Right.
So there must not be a discretion powers to the
Right.
judiciary, to the politicians, to
Equality
the bureaucracy.
and justice, okay.
So they must act according to that fundamental principles, fundamental guideline given by the Islam.
Okay,
So,
okay, perfect.
so in present circumstances, they are working according to their wishes. So
Okay, I get that.
they are running that system according to their discretionary powers, which is not good.
Which is not good, absolutely. So Dr. Yusuf and Anam, since you both are psychologists, I'm so sorry, I always confuse that. So if we were to look at Mr. Habibullah's claim and actually agree, I do agree that, there are some definitely some, lags that we are, or probably gaps and loopholes that we need to correct. So particularly talking about the judiciary right now, because that also makes people happy or unhappy. Sure. Do you feel like, Anam, because our generation, our nation right now is deeply stressed, is that one of the reasons? Could that be a reason to even make us better than our conditions better than they are right now?
All right, so yes, this could be one of the leading factors too, because you see, when you have unjust, when you have inequality, when you know that you may not have someone who can listen to you.
Okay.
So yes, of course, that could be a source of great stress. Why? Because
Right.
I don't know that if I'm going to face some unpleasant thing, and if I don't know that whom to contact, who is going to help me out, or is there some sort of a policy which I can opt for, or is
Okay.
there someone I can look for? So of course, that state of uncertainty could lead towards distress. And what
Right.
Sir has said, I would like to just like to add another thing. I think it's about time that we have to revise our policies
Okay,
in light
okay.
of Islam. Why? Because changes are here, and we are just following different cultures, and the whole world is like going through globalization. So I think every now and then we need to revise our own values, our own policies in light of Islam, that what guidance has been given by our religion,
Right.
and are we actually following it? Or is there still some room for improvement?
Right.
So I think this is the time that we need to, high time in fact, that we need to revise our policies with accordance to our religion.
Anam, I feel like you're absolutely right, because when the prevalent conditions of our country right now, we are definitely an Islamic state, right? But again, sort of torn between our choices of rather, are we going to follow the West, or should we build our own policies or even our own structure? Dr. Yusuf, is this going to work? I mean, long term, if we look at it, because shouldn't we be sticking to one certain policy or a pattern?
There are complexities at multiple levels here. It is very convenient for us to speak in vague generalities that we should or should not be in accordance with Islamic or Western principles.
Yeah.
As an intellectual community, the people of this ummah, we have been for the past couple of centuries now sound asleep.
I like that,
Right?
yes.
So, with a few
Guilty.
exceptions, with a few notable exceptions,
Right.
for the most part, as an intellectual community, we have had nothing to offer where the world is. If there is capitalism
Okay.
in the West, if there are communist ideals in certain other countries, in whatever form they're still there,
Yeah.
and if we're looking to emulate the capitalistic ideals of the West, capitalism has its own metaphysics.
Right.
It has its own philosophy.
Okay. Okay.
And if we're going to copy paste that here, necessarily there will be chaos. If we're going to relate that
Yeah.
with whatever principles we've inherited
Right.
but haven't paid attention to, how do they apply to the modern milieu? How do we respond to modernity? To the challenges that science gives to the very fundamental issues of religion to begin with. And this needs to be done at the highest level of intellectual qualification.
I agree with
We
that.
can't simply make statements. We need people who have educated themselves within religion and within particularly social sciences, but also physics, chemistry, biology, all the hard sciences as well, and then as influence policy making.
Right. So, Dr. Yusuf, here's the thing. You said we can't make statements. I feel like we can, because when we make statements, we are at least realizing where we're standing. Well, let's talk about social contract now, ladies and gentlemen. Social contract is basically the relationship between the present government, the present authoritarian system in the country, with the general public. There's a huge lack of social contract in I mean, it has been, not right now probably again. I mean, the incumbent government is definitely trying to, build a better relationship with the public. We're seeing that, fingers crossed. But in the previous years, it has been the opposite. So, Mr. Habibullah, when we're looking at such a country where there's definitely a gap and between, the governing bodies and the public itself, there's definitely unrest. Do you feel like we are in that state now, and how is that impacting us?
There is 4 spheres of life.
Okay.
First, the relation with our family.
Yeah.
There is a governing laws
Yeah.
for my relation with my family. So there must be a certain principles
Okay.
to govern my family. Islam has given that principle how to govern your family. What will be your relation with your family?
All right.
Then what the second level is what will be your relation with your city.
Okay.
The peoples they are living surrounding you. So there must be a governing principles governing that relationship. There must be certain laws. Islam has given that laws and that principles. Accordingly, you are the citizen of one nation.
Yeah.
That is Pakistani nation. So you have certain relation with your government. You have certain relation with your whole nation. So there must be certain principles or laws governing that relationship.
Okay.
And likewise, you are a part of humanity.
Right.
So you have certain relation with that humanity over the world. So there is a governing principle, there is a laws that govern that relationship.
Okay.
So Islam has given all the sphere of life, these 4 levels, given the principle, the guidelines,
Okay.
the laws. So we must read out that laws, we must be aware of that laws, and according to that law, we must form our society.
Okay. So if we adhere
Our
to those
constitution, we must form our constitution according to that principles.
Okay.
And that principles which is given by the Islam, that must be recognized by the Constitution of Pakistan. This is, according to me, the Constitution of Pakistan lacks certain things.
Okay.
Which must be recognized by our Constitution of Pakistan. And secondly, we have certain laws in every sphere of the life Ministry
Right.
of Education, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Law and Justice, Ministry of so and so.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So we have laws according to every ministries,
Okay.
and that has governing our society.
Okay.
So we must have taken principles in that sphere of life,
Okay.
and that must be recognized by the rules and regulation governing that body.
Okay.
And this is necessary.
Obviously,
And
obviously it
that
is.
will be a new social contact.
Okay.
We are running our society by the old social contact.
Right, we should have a new one. I mean, according to the times that have been changing and
Yes.
adhere to the new policies. Very rightly said, Habibullah Saab. Now, Dr. Yusuf and Anam, still talking about social contract. Three of the, least happiest countries in the world are Afghanistan, Rwanda, Central Africa. And the issues, again, I happen to see there are social contract. They're angry, they're frustrated because they need their voices to be heard. What are the lessons that we as Pakistanis need to take away from them? Anam.
All right, yes, we need to listen to our people, we need to listen to their demands, and we need to see that we have to have that sort of analysis being done on them, that what are they expecting for the policymakers, or
Okay.
what are their expectations from the government.
Right.
Again, we need to look into this, that are those expectations realistic or not, because yes, we have discussed it multiple times that fine, we have to have certain expectations from our government, but we cannot throw everything on them,
Absolutely
right? So
not,
happiness or being content, or that is a personal feeling. So either being a citizen of Pakistan, I have an option to crib and whine about this, that
Okay.
we don't have this, or otherwise we can start making something different, or we can start bringing some change in our lives and in others too.
Okay.
So what least I can do is not to criticize someone,
not to be
or
a crybaby about it.
exactly, and maybe I can bring happiness in my life, or at least in my family, or someone who's nearby me.
Okay.
So it's simple, the thing, by policymakers, I think what should be done, that we need to look into this, that what are the expectations, realistic expectations, what could be done, their basic necessities should be met, their daily
Right,
living and health facilities and a lot of others. And along with that, I think that we need to inculcate this concept of being happy with what you have in our life. This is very important.
Okay, what about you, Dr. Yusuf? Do you have something to add to this?
Yeah, just going to the impact of inequity on an individual person. When I have a sense of entitlement and then I'm denied certain basic rights, that engenders a resentment.
Okay, okay.
And relating that to the sense of entitlement, that resentment will then be leveled against the people of the society for there to be more injustice. That's how the cycle of evil works.
Okay.
That when you exploit others, when you take advantage of others, it stems from a feeling of being unjustly treated at some level. So not only do we need obviously policies that ensure as much equitable distribution of basic needs in the very least, and people's ability to express themselves,
Okay.
talk about what they need, we also need to educate and inspire a charitable attitude, that we
Absolutely.
become a people of who are more prone to giving than
Rather-
focused on the sense of entitlement. Government policy making, yes, looks towards the rights that people
Okay.
have and tries to fulfill them. At the same time, looking to inspire a charitable attitude.
Okay, perfect. But this was absolutely beautiful to talk about. We will still be in conversation, but ladies and gentlemen, what's better to start your morning than a beautiful hamd when you praise your God, the Creator Allah? Let's head out to listen to this one, then we come back with our conversation. Wow, this was so beautiful, and this definitely is going to make my day throughout the day. Well, I feel like now we should move towards freedom of movement, of speech, and freedom of expression. Habibullah Saab, starting with you, what are, I mean, constitutionally speaking, what are the freedom rights that general public does have?
Yes, the peoples have right of speech,
Yeah.
but there is a limitation.
Okay.
So limitation has provided by the law as well.
Right.
The limitation must have certain training module,
Okay.
which is lacking in our society.
Yeah.
For the Islam, I just explaining that.
Yeah.
For fasting,
Yeah.
the Quran says, "Kutiba alaykum as-siyamu
Yeah.
kama kutiba alal ladina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun." So the basic purpose of this fasting is that you must adopt certain limitation. You must be part of that laws. So this is taqwa.
Okay. Okay.
The likewise Quran Majid says in another ayah, "Idilu huwa aqrabu lit-taqwa." So the justice is very near to the taqwa.
Okay.
How it is?
Yeah.
But the question is how it is.
Enlighten us.
And if you are adopting the rules, the fundamental principles given by the Allah Almighty, then you are following that principles. If you are following that principles, meaning thereby you have limited your view. You have given limitation to your speeches.
Okay.
You have given limitation to your action. You have given limitation to your wishes.
Yeah.
So if you are in limitation, that is more important.
Okay.
Because your behavior in society will be more good, will be more perfect
Okay.
if you are in limitation.
Okay. I
That
get
is very necessary. And our fasting giving you a training for that limitation.
Right.
In fasting, you have a certain limitation. You do not, if you have a wishes to take a water, but you cannot take that water, you have certain limitations.
Limitations,
so
okay.
that is a training.
All
That's a
right.
training. You are under governing laws.
Okay.
You have adopted that laws. So this is a training. The training is also necessary.
I understand that, Mr. Habibullah, but I would like to probably, drift away from the perspective that you have right now. I feel like Dr. Yusuf and Anam, you are probably going to agree with me. Some privileged ones who do have, the rights of freedom to move, to speak, or to express in any form. There are still certain segments of the society who do not have this freedom at all, let alone limitations. How frustrating can that be?
Well, it is very frustrating. That is because of the class stratification system which we
Right.
have, that if you have excess, if you have context, so yes, you can talk about that, see, this is something which has happened to me. But there are certain classes yet who doesn't know how to practice their freedom.
Right.
Maybe they do have, but again, that they're sure of that no one is going to listen to me. So it is actually frustrating. And that
Yes.
is our responsibility again. Being a member of the society by and large, we are equally, I believe, accountable for that.
Yes,
That if there was
agreed.
someone who was suffering from some misery and I was not there for him or her, so yes, I think, again, in light of Islam, I'm going to be answerable for that.
Well, I like your
Yeah,
approach, Anam.
yeah.
And again, I feel like you do realize that we happen to be the privileged ones, right?
Exactly,
There's so many
yeah.
people around us who do need
True.
sort of support from people like us. What about you, Dr. Yusuf? What do you say about this?
So the stratification in the society necessarily means that there are certain segments who have an exaggerated degree of freedom,
Okay.
which is almost unchecked, and another segment of the society that has next to none. And that leads to the exploitation that we do experience.
All right.
When speaking of freedom at each level, the more someone has, the more responsible they should be. The Viennese psychiatrist Viktor Frankl, he commended the Americans for having the Statue of Liberty, talking about human freedom, but he
Right.
recommended that there be a complementary statue of responsibility. So the more liberty someone has,
Right.
the more responsibly they carry themselves, they will be able to liberate others.
Right, love it, absolutely. So true as well. Thank you so much for joining us, especially when you're fasting. I understand how sort of hard it can get. Dr. Yusaf, Anam, Habibullah Saab, thank you so much for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, I really hope you got something away from our show. Please write on our Facebook page with the name of Well This Morning. On Twitter, Well This Morning without a G. In Dailymotion and YouTube, also Well This Morning. And the repeat is going to be at 11:05 p.m. tonight. Till the next time, take care. Good morning.